The Dadaab camps in Kenya's northeastern province were established 20 years ago to shelter refugees fleeing violence in neighboring Somalia. Here in Dagahale, one of the 5 camps of Dadaab, last year's malnutrition crisis is over, but for many refugees, hunger is still a daily reality. In one of MSF's help posts, hundreds of people have come to get medical assistance. Years spent without a functioning healthcare system in Somalia have left their mark. Asia is exhausted and her child is sick and in need of help. Medical staff assisted by refugee workers help heal the scars of war and drought. The crisis in Somalia has taken a devastating toll on the country and its people, and the emergency is far from over. In the biggest refugee camp in the world, the hospitals are crowded and the aid system is overwhelmed, and still the camps continue to grow. Today, there are almost 500,000 refugees in Dadaab, in a space intended for 90,000. The camps are desperately overcrowded, water is in short supply, and refugees have to compete for basic services like education and healthcare. MSF has worked in Dadaab on and off for 20 years. In 2009, after a major influx of refugees, MSF returned to work in the camps to respond to a series of health and nutrition emergencies and a humanitarian situation that was nothing short of catastrophic.
To me, this is an outrage. This is something that the world needs to pay attention to. Many of them have said, things here are so terrible that I'd rather go back to Somalia. That I'd rather go back to Somalia and face the bullets than to stay here in Dadaab under these conditions and maybe die of starvation, maybe die of not having enough water, maybe die of diseases that we're going to get because the conditions are not clean enough.
MSF has been the sole health provider in Dagahale camps since 2009, providing primary and secondary health care in 4 health posts and a hospital of 300 beds. For a brief moment, during the summer of 2011, Dadaab was in the public eye, as images of exhausted refugees and malnourished children made front-page news all over the world.
The present situation of the camp, I can describe it as a humanitarian emergency, with the fact that large number of people living outside of the camp with no proper security, no proper shelter, no adequate water, no sanitation, and with no clear future whether they are staying here or will be moved to another place.
Because of the media pressure, emergency funding was unblocked, aid agencies scaled up their efforts, and 2 additional camps were opened to accommodate the new arrivals. The situation stabilized, but not for long. In October, 2 MSF staff were kidnapped, and a wave of violence spilled over into the camps. Since then, life has become a great deal harder, both for refugees and for aid workers.
I think there is no organized way of receiving the new arrivals now. Registration has been suspended, which means if you come to the camps, you have to find your own way to survive. With your relatives or friends, or if you don't have relatives, then you have to beg.
We are still in alert. There have been outbreaks in the past, and overpopulation, new arrivals not taken care of, and limitation of the services that can be provided. It implies that the consequences of the well-being and the health of the refugees, something we need to take seriously. After the massive emergency of last year, the number of arrivals in the camps have been slowed down. However, we cannot say how many new arrivals are reaching the camps since October, as the registration is closed. The numbers of patients arriving to our health structures is maintained extremely high, and we are worried about the well-being of the new arrivals. If you see how the refugees in the Dadaab camps live, I mean, you don't choose that. Becoming a refugee in a situation of protected refugees where you know that you don't have much hope in the future, remaining there, it also shows you that there is not many options these people have. It's a long journey for them coming to the refugee camps. It's an even longer journey, sometimes it's all your life being there, and it's a very little hope of future beyond maybe you will have the ticket to go to the States.